Welcome to another edition of the Backyard Professor podcast series, where I do all the talking and you get to do the listening and all the learning. I'm Kerry Schertz, the Backyard Professor. I'm continuing my simplification and analysis of Hugh Nibley's Abraham in Egypt. I'm on page 61, the section called Kings in Collision. I've been rather busy with the Dead Sea Scrolls exhibit here in my hometown this past week. I've been asked to be a tour guide, and I've been thoroughly enjoying it and analyzing showing the folks the various Bible artifacts. We have cuneiform texts, we have inkwells and ink pots, we have 4 actual fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls there, we have the world's largest collection of first edition Bibles, and we have a replica of the Gutenberg printing press, the most magnificent, significant invention of the last millennium. It has given us our wonderful life of books, literature, reading, science, mathematics, so on and so forth. It's a phenomenal invention. I've been more and more coming to appreciate the significance of the printing press and the great men who gave their lives, sometimes with their blood, to get the printed word out. And so I'm very, very grateful for their sacrifices. Tyndale's and Coverdale and Gutenberg and Luther and all of the great people who strove to educate the masses. And now, in this day of the internet and podcasts, we continue striving to keep our education levels high, to continue gaining new insights and ideas, not only with the printed word, but with the spoken word. And I love doing these podcasts, so I'm going to elaborate a little more on what Hugh Nibley was talking about. I probably won't completely finish this chapter in this podcast. I'll get that in the next one, because I found some very interesting information about Nimrod that I wish to share with you also. So on page 61, the Abraham scholars have recognized that not only is the non-biblical materials important, but that they're critical to helping us fill in the gaps of our knowledge that we have in the Bible. We must not lose sight of the fact, wrote C. Widengren, that the Old Testament, as it is handed down to us in the Jewish canon, is only a part, and quite frankly, we don't even know if it's the greater part of Israel's national literature. Now, he said that way, way back in the 50s and 60s. This has come home very strongly with Margaret Barker's analysis in her books, The Older Testament and The Great High Priest and The Revelation of Jesus Christ. And many of her significant materials are analyzing now the idea that the epic ancient literature of Israel has not all come down to us through the ages, and the canonization process excluded some materials that could have been in the canon. And so as this material has come to light, well, you know, the recent phenomenon with this Gospel of Judas Iscariot, very interesting how it's just taken the biblical world by storm, so to speak. It's significant that with the Abraham Apocrypha, what we have, and the Apocrypha, they don't come from just a single place or a single time, and it has been slowly being gathered, but they have a common origin. And this is the lost portion of the record that we have in our Bible, and the Abraham Apocrypha have a common origin. And the scholars are beginning to recognize the historic foundations to important parts of the tradition. Now, I've seen criticisms that the LDS scholars are using the apocryphal writings and the non-canonical writings to be used as an extra support for our unique doctrines or our unique ideas in history, and so therefore it's invalid. But we aren't the only ones now coming out. Robert Kraft and James H. Charlesworth is the big name. There are many. Andrei Orlov, the new scholar on the Enoch materials, the Slavonic aspects of the Book of Enoch materials, and again Margaret Barker and Leonore Leet and several of them, Emmanuel Tav, and, well, the entire Dead Sea Scroll corpus of materials. As the new archaeological discoveries are coming out, it's not just an LDS attempt to save a lost cause. Not at all. We are discovering now that there is much more to the historical ideas in the Old Testament than we have heretofore supposed. The text of Enoch is 1 or 2 short verses, and yet the Enoch corpus goes into hundreds of pages. That's just one quick example. The same idea with the legends of Abraham and Nimrod, which is what Nibley is exploring here. He's talking about the super monarch, often goes by the name of Nimrod, and we find in the non-canonical materials that this Nimrod is also identified with Pharaoh in Egypt as the rival of Abraham. And I think that's very significant. I've got some interesting information on Nimrod that I want to share with you today. In making the confrontation between Abraham and Pharaoh the pivotal theme of its history, with rival claims to priesthood and kingship being the issue, our book of Abraham has got off on the right foot and cleared a formidable hurdle. And this is interesting because some of the scholars early on, well, back in the 1912 times, well, and even before then, they accused Joseph Smith of just simply misidentifying who was being sacrificed. Joseph Smith obviously was such a dunderhead, he goofed and said it was Abraham, and he meant Isaac. He should have been talking about Isaac, as any schoolboy knows if they know their Bible. But no, now the stories are coming out showing that Joseph Smith was correct. Abraham definitely has been identified as having the attempt, at least, to sacrifice his life by none other than Nimrod in some of the stories, and by Pharaoh in some of the others. Nibley says on page 62, the interesting thing is God sends an angel to save Abraham, and this is our Book of Abraham theme, and this just baffles Nimrod. He can't figure it out. One, he takes Abraham's wife from him, and the angel smites him. And so he then attempts to sacrifice Abraham, and the angel comes and saves him and kills Nimrod's priest, and then comes after Nimrod, and it terrifies him. It's a very interesting situation. The only thing in this instance that Pharaoh, as Nimrod, can do is heap honors and royal gifts upon the couple, Abraham and Sarah, and kick them out of the country. He even sets Abraham on his throne. Now that's a very interesting theme in relation to our facsimiles, Numbers 1, and then we go to number 3 and we see Abraham sitting on Pharaoh's throne. Well, this did occur. It's very interesting how this works. Nimrod tells Abraham on one occasion, "O Abraham, I cannot lay down my kingship, but I will offer you oxen, and I will offer you lots of gifts, and I will heap royal honors on you." But he couldn't offer his kingship. That was all that he had. Now, he wanted the priesthood also, but after the rivalry, and after him losing, he clearly saw, well, 1 out of 2's not bad. I'll keep the kingship. I guess Abraham's got the priesthood. And of course, it was in the priesthood